We're a group of Gen Xers who became aware of our neurodiversity later in life. Join us as we share stories, interesting topics, and talk to special guests. Welcome to Season 2 of This Is How My Brain Works. Welcome to another episode of This Is How My Brain Works. I am Michael Collins, joined by Krista Gano and Jason Rudofsky. Sarah Hines is on assignment. Today, we are going to delve into something, a condition called misophonia, Misophonia. Misophonia is a condition characterized by strong negative emotional reactions, often including anger or disgust, to specific sounds such as chewing, breathing, or tapping that are typically made by other people. And so that's just kind of a general definition of it. But I guess in discussing this in the context of like how we can broaden this to kind of just include things that might be triggers for us, environmental triggers for us, where it could lead to overwhelm, agitation, irritation, just things that we might be overly sensitive to. But that's always just kind of been, it's one of those things that I hadn't ever really heard of until fairly recently. And it seems to kind of affect people in different ways. And in an article that I saw that I'll reference later because I can't find the link now.
On brand. On brand. We're good.
On brand. This is on brand. Basically, it says misophonia has genetic links to anxiety and depression. So just it's like those things where, you know, the neurodiversity isn't enough. There's always like this thing that's attached to it. You know, the comorbidity, if you will, the generalized anxiety or the rejection sensitivity or the low frustration tolerance, or, you know, all these really fun things that are attached.
It's really interesting, Michael, because I just read something too that they're actually, and I'm not going to know this either, so it's going to sound like I'm making it up, but that they are starting to realize that autism and ADHD, like that umbrella is a lot more, like they dance a lot more than what people thought. Like they thought you have this or you have this or you have this, and now they're realizing that it's a much more of a dance of you know, that a lot of ADHDers have maybe some of the autism spectrum stuff, and a lot of the autism people, almost all of the autism people have some level of ADHD. So all of these things that we're talking about, the misophonia, the rejection sensitivity dysphoria, like I think they're all sort of in that pot, that neuro spicy pot. And so
we're all donuts with different frostings.
That's right. And different innards.
I have misophonia. I mean, I wasn't diagnosed, but as someone who lives in a household where an audiologist has been on the ready for as long as at least 15 years that I know of, and even before that, I've been told to get my hearing checked. However, I'm constantly told about the misophonia because of how I react to certain noises. Dogs constantly barking drives me crazy. Outside, can't deal with it.
Yeah.
Emergency vehicles going by, loud cars, loud motorcycles, farm equipment. I don't know. Just loud noises. But here's the interesting thing. I cannot cover my ears.
Why?
I will not. And I'm someone on a mower, on loud machinery. That doesn't bother me. It becomes part of the situation. But they always ask me, do you know, or I blow off greens with a backpack blower. And they're like, where are your earphones? You want earphones? I can't do earphones. It is a claustrophobic feeling of not being able to hear anything or know, like,
do you have
I don't know. I think it's a defense mechanism.
Can you do earbuds?
I've
Like when you
tried
listen to stuff?
so many different earbuds. My ears, they're always slipping out.
I was just
And
saying, there are these little earbud. I mean, they work like earbuds, but they look like little discs. Greg has them, and they only cut out about half the sound. So you can still hear everything. You're not claustrophobic or whatever, but they're like these little discs that they cut. They just sort of go like, boo.
Yep.
But you can still hear everything.
right,
Do
and
you try
that
those?
and there is something I can only describe it as claustrophobic. I can only
Okay.
describe it as claustrophobic. That feeling of compression or not being it leaves me like I'm in a straitjacket.
No, I have that when you put when like the noise canceling like headphones, and I I can almost hear my pulse.
Yeah, and
That's
then
something
that
that
becomes like that's like I
super
can't
freaks
deal.
me out. Like super
Right.
freaks me out. If I lay down a certain way and I can hear my own pulse, like in the way that you've laid down, or what, like if you lay on your ear, I literally am like, nope, 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 don't need to
And the
count
crazy
how
thing
many
with
times my heart's
right,
beating.
with the misophonia, as sensitive as I am to uh the other night we were playing Rummy Cube. Do you play Rummy Cube? Do you know the tile game? It's like
No.
gin with tiles. But Lisa, well, my wife, Lisa, she kept tapping the tile on the table. We're playing with another couple. She kept tapping the tile. I said, "Stop, could you stop tapping the tile?" And she's like, "He's tapping." The couple we were playing with. I'm like, "No, he's not. Not on the table. He's not. He's doing it on the he's just doing on the other tile. Don't do it on their table, please." And she kept on and on. And that noise bothered me. For some reason, his little noise didn't bother me.
What
Once I
about when you're in a
recognized that it
car?
did.
What about when you're in a car and one person rolls down the window just a little bit and it's that
Oh, and that whole
whoop,
weirdness
whoop,
drives me
whoop,
insane.
Yeah.
Where it gets, yeah, that whole thing.
whoop, 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 makes me nauseous. I can't do
But
that.
It is
but for
weird.
someone
It's
who has that
disorienting.
sensitivity, you'd think I want noise canceling, you know, earbuds or headphones, and I just feel like I've been thrown on a deserted island, like I'm lost. It's very, and so I don't wear headphones, and I can't wear earbuds. I've tried 100 different pair that don't fit, but I might try, like,
Yeah, my ear
Lisa
one, like
wears hearing aids and listens to music very, very gently,
these
and
are
can still
mine.
have conversations, and it doesn't bother. Right,
These are mine. And they go over the ear and they just hang out.
Oh
right.
yeah. Well,
Oh, does it
and
ever hurt the back of the ear?
Mm-mm. They're
Do you know what I
really
mean? That kind of pressure after a while, you're like,
no, because there's no, it's very light. It's like it just sort of hooks over it. Because I was worried about that too. No.
and
And it has
Krista,
a carrier, so I don't lose it.
that's
Hello.
that's snazzy.
Hello.
That is snazzy.
Thank you. Thank you.
The the and Krista, back to you were talking about these um kind of earbud things that you can they're kind of noise reduction, or they reduce, or they
Yeah.
filter out certain frequencies of noise that can be irritated. I've used those. The ones I used were called Flare,
Mm.
and it looks like this little cheapy thing that you put in your ear, and it's still got the hole in it, so you can carry on conversations, but it filters out certain frequencies that can cause just irritation, because whether it's tinnitus or tinnitus, for musicians, or just if you have misophonia, it for me, with the ADHD and like everything coming in at the same kind of level, it does kind of help filter some things out. And then if I'm at a place where I have to be reading something, I will have to full on put earplugs in,
To
because
focus.
it will be so distracting. I won't be able to get through a sentence. I have to
So
kind of have quiet.
So Greg is, as a musician and a sound person, it's very strange because there are things that he is incredibly sensitive to, and then there are times where I'm like, how could you not hear that? So, and part of that is probably, just being older, and also just having to focus on frequency, sort of, is kind of his whole life. But the funny thing is that he finds my voice to be the frequency of my voice in particular to be harsh at certain times of the day. And so I've had to learn, I think we talked about this a long time ago.
Yeah.
I've had to learn that when we're talking and he like covers his ears and I'm talking, that it's not about my message. It's that he is literally having a degree of pain and I have to honor that in his ears. But or I'll lower my tone so that maybe we could.
I was gonna say, like, is it tone or frequency or
It's a
vibration?
frequency. I don't know. I really don't know because I'm not in his head. But that's why I got him those, is so that he could still listen to me and it wouldn't hurt. but there are definitely things that when I was, I guess what I want to ask you all is like when I was younger, now that I'm older, because our frequencies, what we can hear in our frequencies change as we get older. But when I was younger, I could hear electricity.
Oh,
I
yeah.
could hear electricity in the walls. I would go into a store and I could hear, no one else could. I could hear dog whistles. I could hear the security in big malls, like when you go to like the big box stores like Macy's or whatever, they have a security system that when you would walk through the doors, it was like really high pitched. No one else could hear it. I could hear it. And I'm actually really grateful that I'm old enough to where I don't hear that stuff any longer. With misophonia, did you all find that you all have sensitive hearing around certain frequencies too?
Um, you know, I don't think to that extent. I mean, I think with the ADHD, it's like you are aware and perceptive of things at a heightened state, I think. So like I could hear like electrical lines going,
Hmm.
or if I'm talking to someone and I'm describing like, here's everything that I'm hearing right now. And it can be just stuff that's just like,
Yeah, all around.
right. And so um I think there's a maybe a higher awareness to the sounds, but I don't know if it was like what you're talking about as far as
So is the line of misophonia, is the delineation of it that the reaction to the sounds as opposed to this just being able to hear lots of different things, that it
I
creates anger?
I think it is so this little infographic says the symptoms of misophonia revolve around how you react to trigger sounds. And it's
Gotcha.
usually a negative response. The reaction is like feelings like anger, your heart rate goes up,
Uh-huh.
behavioral actions like glaring, and this common trigger sounds can be chewing food noisily, the ticking of a clock, heavy breathing, tapping fingers or toes or Rumacube tiles, um,
Yeah, I can't do ticking of a clock in a quiet room. That
clicking a pen, water dripping, rustling of paper or plastic, smacking lips. My wife has a thing, her jaw kind of pops a little bit when she eats, and
oh
I'll fixate. I'll fixate.
yeah, I can't do it.
So I think it's like there, and I don't know if this is what falls under misophonia, but like I will fixate on something and I can't not hear it. It's distracting to the point where it's hard for me to carry on with whatever else I'm doing, and then I'll get irritated. So that's where some sort of noise reduction thing became helpful for me.
Is it
It wasn't as irritating.
is it misophonia if you hear that your name was being spoken by two or three words away, I mean, how rooms away, and you know people are talking about you, and you now can't focus on the thing that you were doing because you know people are talking about you?
That's a psychological thing.
But here's the thing, why
That's
do I
so
seek
funny.
out, there are certain noises. I mean, I am triggered, not in a sense that misophonia. I am triggered certainly by certain noises. Motorcycles, like for no reason going,
Yeah.
full bore, those big trucks. Um, but there are other things like a helicopter in the sky. I always look up and I watch it. If I hear what I think to be a fighter jet, if I think I hear maybe a hawk, or a bird, like immediately I'm looking for it.
Yeah.
Always looking, I'm always looking. Noise has got my attention.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Well,
saying?
are
Any
you an
sort of
are
noise
you
has
an
got my attention.
are you an audio processor though? I mean, like an auditory processor because like can you read? Would
Visual.
you rather read or hear a book?
I mean, I need to read. I need to
You need to
read.
see it. Oh,
I
interesting.
can't, my attention span for listening to someone else. We
Is it
tried a
to
book on
yourself?
tape recently in a drive we took down to Arizona within a couple of minutes. I mean, one, it was the voice. I couldn't really deal with the voice. We talked about listening to podcasts and how important voices can be to certain people if
Well,
they
it's
please you in a
also,
certain way.
yeah. The
But
delivery of the information is also interesting.
I'm
Like
all
I
visual.
can't do books like the audio books are hard for me, especially like on a road trip, but I can listen to podcasts all
Why
day.
are the audiobooks hard for you? I just had this conversation with Laura just like yesterday. That's why, because I think I know why they're hard for her.
You got to follow along. You got to, I
Well,
mean,
she's
I
an
don't know.
she's an actor, and I think that the people who read fiction, at least in audiobook land, are they're not always actors. Their voice actors are different, but I just think that it's sometimes she's just sort of like, ugh, there's one person reading all of the voices, and they're not that
Yeah.
great.
It,
Right, right,
I
right,
Right.
I
right,
So I
think it
think she
is
gets
right.
like
stuck.
You're like, that's the same guy. He's just making up a different
I
voice.
think the information on a podcast is more consumable. It's more like I can cognitively like digest it easier because it's like ideas and thoughts and it's more just like bite-sized stuff. Whereas like a full-on narrative,
Mm.
it's going and going and going,
It's
and I'm
like
like,
a 10
okay.
course meal, right?
And if
You
I
got to,
tune out for a second in a audiobook, I was like, shit, I just missed information that I need. Whereas at a podcast, you can kind of come in and out
Interesting. Yeah,
a little more.
I mean I'm a big audio like cuz and I think it's because I can stay busy, right? Like if I am listening whether it's a podcast or a book or whatever, my hands and I can be put them on, put it on and I can be doing other things. Whereas when you read and all you can do is like sit down and hold that book and it's the only thing that you can do. That is harder. I mean, I love to read, but so when I say that's harder for me to do, I would say if it's fiction, I will read fiction morning, sun up to sundown. Like, you give me a good fictional story, I'm in. But I cannot. Laura will send me all of these articles because she's a big reader. And I'm like, I can't read that. Like, I just can't do it. You have to send it to me in a different way. If it's sent to me in a way that I can listen, I will totally listen. But when it comes to fiction, I can do either. But my brain definitely shuts, like it prefers certain information to be auditory.
Yeah.
And I think that's changed actually well, I don't know if it's changed through the years because when we were kids, nobody said, "Hey, do you want to listen to that on tape?" And there was no, we didn't have audiobooks. It was like sit in the corner and read, kid. Too bad. Like we
no,
didn't have this
I
stuff.
remember one audio book I remember from, I was driving, we were in the mountains, and I think it was just my sister and I, not young, but
Oh
maybe,
my
I mean,
gosh.
if I was driving, maybe 17 or 18, I remember listening to an audiobook,
No, you're right. I just had this flash memory,
audio
Jason, of
tape. It was on like a cassette, I think.
mine was on a record player. I had a record player that had a book and it would go bong when it was time to change
Right.
the page.
Right.
And my parents were divorced when I was very young, and I would fly across the country from to Florida where my dad is, often alone on a plane, and he would pick me up and I would be in his van that had no ways to strap you in. So just rolling around in the back of the van. And I remember one time I took out the book and I read it. I was like 4 or 5. And he was like, "Oh my God, she's a genius." I had just memorized it. And he finally he got it because at some point I started going bong when you're supposed
Yep.
to change. Then he was like, "Why are you making that sound?" And I was like, "Because that's what the sound is." And he finally got it. But no, you're right. So there were a few. But I'm saying like in school though, I mean, there was Hooked on Phonics. There was a couple things, but for the most part, nobody said, in literature, hey, you're going to read Moby Dick, but you got to, but you've got these other options of ways to consume it. Like we just had to like sit with the book and like
Or
bang
sit with the
ourselves over
Cliff
the head
Notes.
with
What
it.
about Cliff Notes? Remember the
I
Cliff
could,
Notes?
I could not do Cliff Notes, Jason.
I think they were. I think I tried it once
I
for a
couldn't even do Cliff
Shakespeare.
Notes.
Oh,
Remember
see, mine was like I threw the,
those little yellow booklets that you could kind of
yeah,
like.
but I was like, that's cheating. We can't do Cliff Notes. Bleh.
Mm.
I was stupid back then. I would
I
totally
couldn't
do
even.
it
One of the
now, by the way.
reasons I had trouble. I haven't. I'm going to just be very frank. I've read cover to cover maybe 5 books.
Oh,
One, because unless it holds my attention, I can't sit still. I can't. And there are a handful of books that really, I don't need to name the books, but
Outsiders.
no, but I did read the outside.
The
Well, I
Hobbit.
mean, in high school, I read a lot, but as an adult, I've only read
Oh,
about 5. And the other
I
thing with listening to something, and you have the ability to do a lot of things at once, Krista, and listen to something in your ear. Am I right? I
oh,
can't.
for sure. I mean, it's
I
what I
mean, it would
prefer.
mean me if I really wanted to listen to it. Now, podcasts are different. We talked about that.
podcast.
And on our trip, we listened to a lot of our podcasts.
Stand-up comedy.
Great.
Yeah.
But very difficult for me to and I realized this on this trip. I don't know that I could listen to a book on tape in the car. There's
There,
too much coming at me
So hard.
to look out, and I'm driving, and I'm it's
it's a
I think
lot of
one of the
input.
reasons that I just don't
Yeah.
have the ability to sit still in that moment and focus
yeah.
on that one thing. There's
I
too
have
much
to
else
say
going on.
that, I mean, I think, I don't know if, again, I keep saying this podcast like it's like 5 times as we've gotten older. I definitely protect my my peace a lot more in terms of that input. Like you're saying, like if I know I'm going or doing something that there's a lot of sensory input coming in, I will try to find ways to streamline, which is I think what you're essentially experiencing when you're doing when you're saying like I can only listen to certain things while we're taking a trip or whatever because I just can't do the other. And I mean, I'm one of those people as a kid, which is, I think in some cases more of a girl trait, that I would get up in the morning, start reading a book, and it would be done by the end of the day. Like I was a voracious fiction reader when I was younger. So, and lately, given the state of our world, I've actually gone back to starting to read every night and and I'm turning screens off entirely because
Yes.
that's my way of saying there's too much input all day long and I
Yeah.
need to like settle it down.
Totally.
So I think I definitely have had reactions. I don't know if I could tell you right now off the top of my head, like it's always somebody eating or it's always, but I've definitely had sound reactions that I've had big reactions to and needed people to stop because it made me sort of physically uncomfortable, right? So I definitely have had that happen. I just don't know if I could put the finger on all of the triggers necessarily, but you said some of those, like paper crinkling or like, I don't, but it feels to me, it's always like circumstantial. Like I could be out at a restaurant and somebody eating doesn't bother me at all, but maybe then at home when it's really quiet, it does bother me. You know what I mean?
Here's something interesting that I want to kind of add on to this discussion. And I think because we've discussed a lot about we've talked a lot about feelings of shame, guilt, um, lower self-confidence because of like we're not understanding how our brain worked at a younger age. So these studies that they're doing, again, the responses to a triggering sound can range from irritation and anger to distress. Quote, it has been argued that misophonia is based on the feelings of guilt about the evoked irritation and anger rather than the behavioral expressions of anger itself that causes the distress.
Say that again, because that just
That
felt
was
like,
what I was going to say. Please say that again.
Okay, it has been argued that misophonia is based on the feelings of guilt about the evoked irritation and anger rather than the behavioral expressions of anger itself that causes the distress. So it's like the reaction to something, and this could be like our impulsivity or our quickness to become emotional about something, and then we feel bad about it once we're back to a more regulated state. So there's this feeling, that we can get where the guilt or shame about just the fact that that type of stuff affects us the way it does.
Right.
Or also, I
As
wonder,
opposed to what?
Well,
Anger
just being angry for it's a
and
what do
not
they call
feeling
it?
the guilt about it.
It's the secondary thing. It's the secondary emotion. It's not like, why is Jason angry all the time? It's not, you're not, it's the trigger and the disruption to the nervous system, and then the reaction can be irritation and anger. That's how your body's maybe processing it or metabolizing it. I don't know.
I will tell you this much. Whether it's a noise that triggers me, whether it's something else that triggers me, and I lose it for a second, I always feel guilty afterwards.
Hmm.
And I feel ashamed that because I come down from that high.
Yeah, you can't
and I
can't
think to
manage
myself,
myself.
how in God's name why does that do that to me?
Right.
Why does that happen every single time?
So
And
the thing,
in some instances I can't explain it. Why does it trigger me to a point, and then I'm ashamed that other people had to witness my
sure.
reaction to a motorcycle who guns it because he's behind me. Now he sees an opening and then guns it. Those
The deep one.
like so
Yeah,
loud, and
deep
you've got the
ones.
window down and it's right next to you. I lose it.
So, I
And
mean, I
I
think,
think to myself,
listen,
I wish it didn't.
I mean, we all have environmental sort of trigger. Like, I just realized as we were talking about, it's like for me, which is why it would have bothered me probably what Jason was talking about earlier, the tile is like anything that is really, really, really repetitive. It's why like raves when we were younger and like that trap music, the dum, 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 and I'd be like, no, it makes me furious, furious. Jazz music that is, but so that goes, it goes both sides of it. So if it's too like dun, 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 furious, if it's the type of jazz that's like nice melodic jazz, I'm good. But if it's a kind of chaotic, like we're just gonna do whatever the crap we want jazz, I'm furious, like furious. Cannot go listen to it. I hate it. It makes me furious. And then, but then you also have, Jason, what you were talking about, the tiles. Like I have the moments where stuff, like something like that was happening, and all I would be thinking of is like, are you going to hurt their table? It's almost like this people pleasing for somebody like else. It's like, stop tapping your tile on the table. It could hurt that person's table. It's like this, there's a weird people pleasing thing that I just get consumed with.
Yeah.
For me, like if something,
Like, you don't do that in another person's home.
Yeah.
That's basically what I was
or
telling
it's going to hit their table. It's going to hit the
and they're good
it's gonna
friends
hit
of
their
ours,
table.
but
Yeah.
still.
Right, but I mean, like, I just think that people pleasing thing can pop in
There's
too.
probably
Yeah.
an element of that.
For me, there is, yes.
But I will tell you, I did not feel guilty or ashamed after that. I was just like, stop doing that. And I didn't get like, but it didn't give me that adrenaline rush or anything.
Yeah.
Like, could you
Yeah.
stop doing that? That
That's
bothers
probably
me.
good.
And you shouldn't be doing that on their table. But when I
Right.
get that flood of adrenaline,
But
it's like,
here's the thing that I find really interesting about all of that is that I worry a lot. I have a lot of worry in my brain about how am I killing off life because being in certain situations is too much for me from a sensory standpoint. Like, am I killing off life? Am I not going to that party or doing that thing or going to do that? And I have to continually remind myself that I think that the idea of everybody else, the FOMO of it, everybody else enjoying it, is always so much more than my actual enjoyment. Like, I don't enjoy those things, but I also feel sometimes like I isolate myself because I separate my because that sensory stuff is too much for me in those situations.
On that point, Lisa
Yeah.
cannot go to concerts, a lot of
I
concerts.
can't either.
But you know what? I mean, those sort of venues and the loud music and
Yeah.
that whole scene is a lot for her.
Yep.
However, she, like you said, she has the enjoyment of others, say me, in certain concerts. She's sacrificed herself to go see someone
Yep.
who I love, and maybe not it's not heavy metal, it's not Metallica, right? Um, she'll often do it. But she has protection. I mean, she wears her earphones. She may be listening to something.
Well,
I mean, her
yeah,
hearing aids.
I can't go to concerts anymore in Colorado because the secondhand smoke of enjoyment is too much for my system. Like I literally is like it makes me so sick. And
Yeah.
you just can't go to a concert anymore in the Colorado area without a lot of smoke in the air. And I don't begrudge people from doing that. It's just my system, it doesn't mix well. So it becomes physically really debilitating to be in those spaces, which is a shame, in some ways.
Noise plays so much a part of my life now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, we kid that I was like I was like some sort of shepherd dog, in my previous lives or something. I'm always anything. It gets me.
Mm,
Like we were saying, it could be a bird, a small bird chirping. I just heard my cat make a little tiny noise. I thought it was coming from the wall, but it immediately grabbed my attention.
mm,
I'm always and just to go back, there are only certain noises that get me to that point.
yeah.
Thank goodness. But just thinking about it, and especially we talked about the earphones. I won't wear headphones. I need noise. I need that I kind of need that noise.
The input. It's the
Quiet
duality
for
for
me,
us.
it's crazy. As much as I can get
Yeah.
so out of control on certain noises, I need noise around me. Quiet is hard to take. And I had a friend who worked up in Antarctica and said it was you could go out on the ice and it is
Bet.
as quiet as you can't even imagine what that lack of noise is. Now that's one thing that I think we all love to experience, especially if you're like in a stadium and they're like this, a moment of silence. And 76,000 people, there's always one or two like, who yells from somewhere, but
And
there
I'm
is
about to say,
something when you can take that silence with sort of that silence I like.
but there's something, and I'm about to say that something that's sad too, but it was like after 9/11 and even in COVID in that first little bit where everything stopped and you walked outside and there was no air noise.
Oh, 9/11, you could hear
Yeah.
one jet in the sky. It was the eeriest.
Yeah, because I was in LA and there was no car noise, there was no jet noise, there
And
was no
COVID and
yeah,
COVID
and
too.
COVID
Remember that?
too. Yeah, and so it was there are these times where anyway, I do think that no matter what our brains and being neurospicy, we have these dualities, right? We have these like I crave and need this input, this stimulation, these
Yeah.
things. And then also once they hit a certain point, it's too much for me and the reaction is what it is. I shut down, I explode, whatever that looks like. So it is always balancing that duality for us in our brains.
Yep.
You've
All
come to.
right. Well, yes. Very nice. Well, that was a very interesting discussion and something that, doesn't.
Wait, Michael.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't like your tone right now.
Oh, let me, let me.
Something hit me in a weird way. Could you change it? Can you change your delivery?
I
You would
love how
like an
my
accent.
changing of delivery is to
I've been
have
meaning
a
to tell you this for so
horrible
long.
Irish accent.
Please
Let
do a
me
horrible
change it
Irish
up
accent.
for you.
That I like. Keep going with it.
That I
I love
like.
it.
Well, that's another episode of This Is How My Brain Works. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. misophonia and how, it kind of a neurospicy perspective on really just kind of noise and that type of stimulation and as Krista said, the duality of that. If you like the episode, please like and share, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening.
If you like this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, please like, subscribe, and share. If you'd like more info on the hosts, guests, and topics, check out the show notes. Thanks for listening.